Let's present. Okay. Hey guys, today I'm going to review what a design proposal and initial drafts look like for the clients that we work with. We're going to walk through the research stage and the design process itself. We do primarily focus on real estate, but when we're working with other partners on joint ventures, we'll often take over graphics and web design. So here we have a presentation we designed for TGI Power, which is a clean energy company that is building a resort in Sal, Mexico. So this first presentation that we completed was mostly about the possibilities that we saw for the resort, helpful building and geographical tips, and what we could offer for the project. We're also going to go over the designs we did for their press releases once we agree to work together, but that's going to be in the next video. And the final one is going to be mostly about initial rough branding, brainstorming we did for the aesthetics of the hotel, including the research boards, the thought process, and then how you can do it for your clients as well, systems we use and all of that. So we're going to start with our initial proposal presentation. And like we said, TGI Power is a publicly traded company that we connected with to consider a joint venture on their beautiful land in Mexico. So we only had one night to pitch them on what our company's vision was, and we had to quickly gather resources, case studies, and geographical information, and then arrange it in a beautiful way. So this presentation took me about 20 hours to research and compile, and then I asked my friend in business sustainability, Lauren Harder, to contribute additional information for us. So when I start a presentation like this, I want to make it really easy for people to understand the way that it's organized so that the ideas come across more clearly and they can remember them. They can also get an idea of the time it's going to take them to review, and as they're going, they kind of know where they are in the presentation. And a lot of our clients are really busy and they may not have all the time to read a deck like this in depth because it's like 75 pages. So I broke it down in a straightforward way that allowed them to skip around and read the most important parts. At the beginning of each section, once again, I'm going to state exactly what we'll be reviewing and why it will matter to them so that it holds their attention and they can see the level of care and detail that we put into it. So we're starting with place, and a lot of these topics may not seem like they're related much to a Mexican resort, but we take inspiration from a wide variety of sources and apply it in a way that may not be apparent at first. So in the case of bungalow courts, we were thinking about the site layout and the different clientele the hotel may have. And while some luxury resorts may be focused on privacy and giving guests a catered experience, in this case, we also had to consider artist residencies and long-term remote workers. So rather than creating disconnected buildings separated by asphalt roads, we wanted to foster a sense of connection while also giving everybody their own space and area. And that was the same thing with pocket neighborhoods. Rather than just studying other resort site plans, we referred to historical neighborhoods that people really enjoyed and tried to take the essence of them for our planning. So here's some more images of pocket neighborhoods. You can kind of get an idea of what we took for them. And this was just a suggestion as we're thinking about the site plan. And like we said, TGI Power is a clean energy company, and they have that aspect of sustainability down. But to truly call themselves an eco-friendly resort, we wanted to make sure they had all of the bases covered in terms of water sources, waste systems, and food supply. And they are a bit isolated, which can create issues in supply chain logistics. So we took inspiration from this great community in Georgia that has landscaping, which is 80% edible. This means they don't waste water on decorative plants like grass that aren't actually good for the environment, and they're able to supply residents with fresh food that doesn't need to be shipped for days on a truck. And here is another example of a space that we gave them to look at as we're just thinking about the way that the site layout should be constructed. Here we get into specifics about actual construction. Our company has never built a project this big outside of the US before, so we downloaded case studies and scientific materials that briefed us about the landscaping building practices in Mexico. We were able to glean irreplaceable information from these, and it gave us ideas on both the site plan and what materials to propose to them. So here we're going to discuss the importance of working with the sun in Mexico, or else you risk energy problems and uncomfortable homes, which is something a lot of people don't even consider when they start to build, because in a lot of places in the Midwest or the US, it doesn't necessarily matter what angle you have houses at because the sun isn't that strong. But there is an actual very specific angle that's best for the buildings to face so that the majority of the sun's energy is directed away from them and onto solar panels instead. And that is called the tilt angle of the ground. It's also important and will save our clients a lot of money in the long run. And lastly, this paragraph discusses building materials. Yeah, and then we decided on the classic adobe, which is native to Mexico, but placed on top of our patented steel framing to cut cost and labor while retaining structural integrity. Then down here, we're going to finish with a quick recap so they understand the clear points that we're about to make. And our client had mentioned that they wanted to do a lot with masonry. We kind of made a case against that and suggested other methods that we thought would be better in the long run. So previously, when we first connected with them, it was over a presentation we completed about our 3D printed steel framing methods that allow us to put up buildings in a fraction of the time, and we give investors a much more significant return because of that. This is especially important in our building area because it is insanely expensive to have lumber shipped into this area of Mexico. So we knew that steel framing would probably be the best way to go with this. And then we want to continue working with the natural landscape with adobe bricks that are going to allow us to hire local laborers to create beautiful traditional craft that's going to be way more affordable and more special than traditional masonry would be. So because this is a modern luxury resort and we want it to be classic looking, but also very refined, most people, when they think of adobe, they have a very specific traditional image in mind. So I included these so that you could see a wide range of possibilities that this medium allows. Many, I just messed that up, but here we go. We'll just look at pictures of adobe, that's fine. So we've got a wide variety of stuff, and then we move on to eco bricks. So eco bricks are something we haven't totally experimented with building yet, but we needed insulation to go in between our steel frames. And these are a way more earth conscious way to do it. So many Mexican resorts already utilize recycling to build beautiful structures. So we know this is something that would be really easy to put into practice because lots of people are already doing it there. Here are some pictures of eco bricks and the structures that are built with them. Then an alternative but way pricier option is mycelium bricks, which are actually made out of mushrooms. And we included this because they did stress that they wanted to keep the resort environmentally friendly. And these bricks are really cool, so they might want to use them in the future. But right now, so few people are making them that the eco bricks are a better option suited to this project just in terms of cost and availability. And also on all of these slides, I've been including our citations and links down below here where they can read more if they're interested. And this is because you don't want to overwhelm them with too much information, but if they're not totally sold on the slide or the pitch, then they can click on these links down here and the data and facts will back us up. Here's a beautiful structure made out of the mycelium bricks. The last material is palapa, which you will see all over the world, lots of resorts, and it would just be wrong not to include it here. So there's a picture of that. So next we're moving into systems, and I kind of touched on these before, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, but it was really important to propose these solutions in advance so we aren't scrambling to figure things out while we're building. A lot of these are really self-explanatory, but they're key to our pitch. So I'm not going to go over all of them in depth, but one that I did want to highlight here was something called a regenerative truss, because you don't hear about it often. But since this is a luxury resort and our target market is willing to pay for the best experience possible, we toyed with the idea of putting a regenerative truss in place. This is like a 1 or 2% tax on everything purchased on the resort, with the money going to preserve the surrounding natural landscape, animals, and communities. And I'll go back through here a little bit slowly if you're building in Mexico and you wanted to see any of these. Well systems, solar energy is an obvious one because of the strength of the sun. Arts programs, if you have people specifically in our resort, we want to be able to have stores that sell things on the premises. So funding artists with a stay at the resort is a great way to do that. Composting, native farming, like we talked about, waste energy, anaerobic waste systems are great. Public transit, there are electric golf cars, and we also touched on using horses as well because that is very popular there. So speaking of our target market, our next section is going to be about the people that we will serve at the resort. This was another super research focused section where we had to examine the demographics who are most excited about this and how we can attract them. So we started here with an explanation of how the upper class is quickly growing, meaning our market is expanding, which is great. So we got into the specific countries our customers are going to be traveling from, and China is the big one that we kept seeing everywhere. So we noted that a lot of Chinese tourists really value shopping experiences. So this is going to be something key we will need to have at our resort. So we briefly just touched on having an artist residency, and that would be a great way to create totally unique products that people can't get anywhere else in the world. We also received invaluable insights on their preferred payment methods, stay packages, amenities, activities, and more. One specific thing that stood out was how much of birdwatching fanatics the population of birdwatching fanatics is mostly made up of the Chinese demographic. So that was really interesting. And because Mexico has one of the largest exotic bird populations in the world, we filed that away for later. Luxury travel in India is growing more quickly than anywhere else in the world right now, but the market there is still often overlooked. So we wanted to make sure we paid special attention to these consumers. They especially want new food experiences. So this reaffirms our plans to focus on agriculture as landscaping. So this is more about what India wants. And then for European travelers, sustainability is a huge focus. So this is going to be a natural pull to them. But one thing that we noted about them was how they want radically new experiences that they can't get in other places. So that lets us know we really need to think about activities that are exclusive to Sisal. So this is one of the most important sections of the presentation where we tackle problems and solutions. If you're not hyper aware of politics, economics, and geographical elements of where you're building, you will most definitely exceed your budget. And these things can be way more nuanced than you would think. In Mexico's case, there can be a lot of corruption. So we recommended working with a local architect that has already dealt with government there before and can navigate with their connections. Another thing to consider is how difficult it is to get electricity hooked up in Mexico sometimes. And because TGI is a clean energy company, there may be additional red tape to get through. So these are things that need to start being planned way before you even break ground. Here in this section is where I tapped Lauren harder to help me think up exciting things that could attract luxury tourists while still being sustainably and ethically conscious. And we only had a couple of hours to get this part together, but she was able to really quickly research about the area and come up with ideas that match what we needed perfectly. So her ideas were these top two ones about the aviary and lionfish hunting. So Chinese tourists are really excited about exotic bird watching, and this is something we're totally equipped to give. So we wanted to jump on that idea right away. This is really popular in Costa Rica right now, so we already have a blueprint for ways to do this. This one may seem a little shocking after we've just stressed how important ethics and sustainability will be to this resort, but Lauren told me that lionfish are actually incredibly invasive to this area, and it's really beneficial to the environment for divers to spearfish with them. So tourists from all over the world will travel for this, and all we need is a few permits, an instructor, and some gear. So we'll quickly flip through some of the other proposed ideas that we decided on based on our target market. But one cool thing about this one, horseback riding, is how horses could replace cars as a way to bring people around. But with this, we'd have to be very, very careful because the animals can be tired out very quickly in the strong sun. But another cool thing is their waste can be used, composted to harness energy with those anaerobic waste systems. So it's kind of a circular thing. Because of the importance of digital currencies to our Asian tourists, we will be adding in blockchain capabilities for payments. And here's a few other things that we just discussed that are going to be important. The luxury goods market, we touched on that, the artisan products, local food experiences that will be easy to do with the natural landscaping that we're using. Long-term stays, that's why we're putting in the kind of pocket style type thing, so it's set up more like a community and not a disconnected hotel. And that is about it. So we delivered this presentation to them the morning after they asked us for the deck, and it led to the start of our work relationship. So in the next videos I'm doing on this client, I'm going to explain some more of the branding we started working on with them and the resources that you can use to create these things on your own. But I hope this gave you a little bit of an insight into the research process and a way to organize a pitch. And we will see you next time. Thank you for listening.